Welcome to Module 4 in our MOOC Emotion in Language at Work. My name is Carmen Santamaria Garcia from Alcalá University in Madrid, and the title of this presentation is Politeness and Emotion in Classroom Language. I belong to Emo-funded group, and that's the reason why we are preparing these presentations. I hope you enjoy it. I will start with a question that relates to everyday behavior. Every day we have to relate to people, and what do we do when relating to people? Even when we may be unaware of our movements, we move for different goals. And this is because communication is strategic. Strategic from the Greek strategos. Strategos was the agos, the leader, that was in command of the army, the stratos. And this is because messages are communicated with a specific goal, even if we are often unaware of this. And what kind of goals, you may ask? Well, change the world. Human beings are quite ambitious, and this is our inner desire. Or well, at least we try to act upon reality. For example, imagine a friend is miserable and we want him or her to be happy again. What can we do? Well, we can pay a compliment. Or a different situation, we need someone to do something for us, and this happens every day. What can we do? What is the action that we can perform? Well, we can make a request for action. So this is so because words have the power to change the world. In fact, the most influential work in the development of pragmatics is How to Do Things with Words by British philosopher of language John Austin, a series of lectures he delivered at Harvard. And he pointed out that we use language to do things, not only to describe the world or to make assertions. And the actions carried out by words are named speech acts. Speech acts realize different language functions, such as paying compliments or making requests. But how can we modulate the powerful effect of our words? Well, we can achieve different effects by using more or less strength, or by choosing a particular kind of movement, that is, by using different strategies. And politeness theory, a theory developed by Brown and Levinson, explores the different strategies that we can use to relate to people and to achieve our goals. What are the choices of possible moves in interaction, or how do we make use of them? Or what are the factors that have an influence on our choices? These are some of the questions that they address when developing their politeness theory. For example, let's go back to the situation where we need someone to do something for us, and we decide then to make a request for action. Let's think of a situation when we need a ride home after work. What are the possible strategies that we have at our disposal? Well, first of all, we could decide not to do the request. For example, we may fear consequences of our request in the relationship, but we can choose to do the request. In that case, what can we do? Well, we may decide to make the request openly, on record. We may feel confident enough to just ask, will you drive me home? But in case we feel the need to give hints, maybe because we are not confident enough or we fear some consequences of this request, etc., we may give the hint off record, something like, I have such a terrible pain on my right ankle that I cannot even walk to the bus stop. And when we may trust our addressee takes the hint and say, okay, and volunteers to drive us home. Other choices, we could show appreciation for the other and trust as in close relationships, something like, my dear friend, I really trust you in the important mission to drive me home today. Or we can show consideration and respect for the other. I'm really sorry to bother you with this, but I have such a terrible pain on my right ankle that I cannot even walk to the bus stop. Would it be possible for you to drive me home? Well, in my research, I have studied classroom language in this framework of politeness theory. And I have found that requests are among the most frequent speech acts in classroom language. For example, we need students to do something for us, like pay attention to us. And what could we do? First, we could not to do the request. For example, we may fear consequences in the relationship with students. We may not want to be too strict. But in case we want to do this request, we can go openly on record and say something like, your attention, please. Or we could go off record and say something like, these contents will be included in the exam, giving the hint that this is interesting. And then we may choose to include redressive action while showing appreciation for the other and trust, as in close relationships, in this case our students. And we can say something like, my dear friends, I'm sure you will enjoy the lesson today. Or another option to show consideration and respect for the other, could you please pay attention for a few minutes? This lesson is really essential in this course. Well, now we are going to see the same examples, but using more technical terms, using politeness theory. So we see that classroom language contains many requests, which are speech acts that put pressure on addressees, in this case students, to carry out a particular action. So requests to pay attention, to be silent, to carry out different activities, study for assignments and tests, read, write, listen and speak. And requests are considered face-threatening acts. That is, following Browning-Levinson politeness theory framework, acts that threaten individuals' needs to be free from imposition. Well, face-threatening acts can be of two different kinds. Acts that threaten individuals' needs to be free from imposition, and this is called, or this is considered the need for any individual for negative face. This need to be free from imposition. But face-threatening acts can also be oriented to the need for positive face. That is, individuals need to be appreciated and to be approved of. So we see that orders, requests, suggestions, advice, remindings, warnings belong to the first group, acts that threaten the need for negative face. And disapproval, criticisms, contradictions, disagreements belong to the second group, those acts that threaten our need to be appreciated, that is, our need for positive face. Well, my observation in this research is that face-threatening acts have the potential to trigger negative emotions. And many of teachers' actions are face-threatening. That is, they have the potential to threaten students' public image, and hence they may produce negative emotions. Directives threaten their negative face, the students' negative face, as we have seen. But assessments implying criticism on a student's performance threaten their positive face. And we may even find many acts that threaten both positive and negative faces at the same time. For instance, will you rewrite the whole paper, please? This is a request putting pressure on the student because it implies that the teacher does not like the paper. That is a criticism against the student's positive face at the time that we are putting pressure on the student to do an action. So we see both faces threatened. Another example, elicitations of information in display questions in front of the classroom threaten both students' positive and negative faces. Will you please tell us the names of the capitals in Europe? So, classroom language has consequences in learning, and this has been observed in the literature on the relationship between teachers, learners, interaction, and language to learning. All these researchers stress the importance of negotiated interaction, which gives learners opportunities to test their hypotheses about the target language and acquire language. Hatch, for instance, Evelyn Hatch claims that it is out of conversational interaction that syntax develops, and that interaction is essential in the scaffolding process needed to incorporate target language structures. Amy Choi observes the relationship between interaction and learning. She says that the language used by the teacher affects the language produced by the learners, the interaction generated, and hence the kind of learning that takes place. She also observes the need to study the use of language in the classroom and how learning comes from the different ways of interacting. If teachers' discourse, as we have observed, contains face-threatening acts, it seems most advisable then that teachers mitigate their strength with redressive actions, as we have seen above. For instance, showing appreciation for the other, for the student, and trust as in close relationships, using positive politeness. So something like, my dear friends, I'm sure you will enjoy the lesson today. Or showing consideration and respect by using negative politeness. Could you please pay attention for a few minutes? This lesson is really essential in this course. As a summary and conclusions, classroom language contains many FTAs, or face-threatening acts, which have a high potential for producing negative emotions and deteriorate classroom atmosphere. And as learning depends on classroom language and interaction to a great extent, it could be in the interest of learning that teachers use politeness strategies that mitigate the strength of the FTAs and foster a good classroom atmosphere. From my teaching experience and the study of politeness theory, I consider that the exploitation of positive politeness strategies that care for the expression of affect and appreciation and take opportunities for building on empathic connection could be the most beneficial, as they may lower the potential negative effect of FTAs on emotions. And just to conclude, I have included a list of references that I hope you may find useful in case you want to continue with this topic. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you have enjoyed.